What's up, y'all? I am back for another video. Sorry I didn't do my Superman 3 video yesterday. I was on with the boys watching TNA Turning Point, which was a pretty bad show for Pin Down. So I I was just too tired by the time. But I figured today we're gonna be doing Superman 3, and then the plan tomorrow is to do Smile 2, and then Monday I don't have my whole uh fucking week planned out yet, but I do at least have a video for Monday. Tomorrow I'm gonna do Smile 2, and then Monday I want to do a discussion video because I haven't done one of those in a while. I've been doing a lot of reviews, so why not do a discussion about, since Gladiator 2 just came out and I just roasted that piece of shit, why not roast Ridley Scott and talk about how far he's just fallen? Because man, he made Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator. Those three films just alone, were great. And the dude is just falling. Even Prometheus, I really like Prometheus. It has problems, and if you do try to force it within the Alien timeline, it doesn't really make sense. But as a sci-fi story, I like it. I haven't seen that last Duel movie. I think that's what it's called. That night movie he did. I have not seen that. But how far he's fallen. I mean, what he did with Napoleon, I've not seen, but I've heard a lot of bad things. Obviously, what he's done with Alien and the sequels. I want to just talk about how far the dude has fallen, just how far up his own ass he's just been, and just yeah. So I want to talk about that. So that'll be what I'll talk about Monday, and then hopefully by tomorrow I'll at least have my week planned out. So, but anyway, today we're continuing on with the Superman movies. We're going to be doing Superman 3, and I hopefully will do Superman 4 on Friday next week. But Superman 3, I'll admit, I did not like. I've really grown to not like over the years, and rewatching it last night, I'm going to say it's not as bad as I remember. It's not good. It is not good. I don't like how slapstick it is, and I'll be honest. The scene where it opens up with Gus Gorman, he's embezzling money and you see him at the bank. That scene it doesn't feel like a Superman movie. I feel like unless you hear him, there's a scene where he says Metropolis. So he drops a couple lines, but you take those lines out, this could just be a Richard Pryor movie that's unrelated to Superman. And then I do think the scenes with Clark and Superman, and the scene where he fights his evil version of himself, that stuff is very well done. But Webster, who's the main villain, I just don't like. He uses Gus to hack because he wants to corner their market. That's weak, man. It's basically Lex Luthor's real estate. You might as well just had Gene Hackman in the movie. Because it would have been at least kind of funny to see Gene Hackman and Richard Pryor interact. It would have made more sense than just having a pseudo Lex Luthor that was essentially the same character, just not have Lex in it. And he builds a supercomputer, which that should have just been Brainiac. I've always felt like you could rewrite that and have it be Brainiac. And it causes Superman to go bad. Which I'll admit, the part where he fights himself, and he fights the corrupted Superman, I'm not gonna lie, that scene is great. And he chokes it, and then it disappears, and then he rips the suit, and he becomes the Superman. He starts repairing the damage. I love those scenes in the movie. Lana Lang shouldn't have been in the movie. I'm sorry. I like Annette O'Toole. I've seen her in other movies. She's a great actress. She's not needed in this movie. I would have personally. I like the idea of him going back to Smallville. You should have just did that. If you're gonna have Lois Lane not in the movie, because they basically what they do is they said she's gonna go to Bermuda for a job, I think, to do a report or something. So that was it. That was the way they wrote her off the movie for pretty much most of it until she came back in the very end. It was weak. I'm not saying I needed the love stuff, but I don't Lois Lane is such a big part of Superman stories. To just write her off, that'd be the equivalent of we don't want to have Mary Jane in the movie, so we're just gonna write her out until the end. I just think that's weak. But if you're gonna do that, you didn't need Lana Lang. Cause hot take, I understand she's one of the characters that's Clark's early on love interest when he was younger. but I've always felt like that's what she should stay as. Even in the animated series, I never really loved. Like, I kind of skipped the episode when she comes in because she's not needed in the larger Superman mythos. She was a girl he dated when he was in high school, and I always felt like that's where it should have stayed. I never really loved when they brought her in when he's actually Superman and he's with Lois. No, I've always felt like that was weird. It is like she's a minor character to me in the larger Superman world. To me, I've always looked at her like that, and I don't know if it's a hot take, but that's just how I personally look at it. But I will say, the scenes where Superman, I love the opening scene where he saves the guy out of the car, and he does the transformation, but in a photo booth, and he takes like the other pictures where it shows his identity, gives the kid the fucking picture of him as Superman. I love that shit. Like, he really, Christopher Reeve, like, even in the bad movies, really does shine. Maybe not in Superman 4, because I'm gonna get to a scene when I get to that movie. But in this one, even though I will still say it's bad. Like, it's bad writing. They could have did something different. The supercomputer should have just been Brainiac. You could have rewritten it as how to be Kryptonian tech. That's all it really needed to be. Shouldn't have been Lex Luthor. I mean, like, it should have just been Lex Luthor, not Webster. Russ Webster, I think is his name. But like I said, Ross Webster. But Pryor was good. Like, I think Pryor was Richard Pryor, which he did a good job at that. And I think he at least carried the movie. And like I said, it's not as bad as I remember. I'm not like, oh, this is awful, and I wasn't like, I need this to end. I was like, all right, this is slapstick. This isn't good, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's way better than Superman Returns and 4. I would probably say this is better than 4 objectively. So overall, Superman Returns, Superman 3, I mean, I give like objectively like a 4.5. I don't think I can give it a 5. I still think writing wise is pretty bad. A lot of the slapstick gets very overdone at some points. It's to a point I'm like, okay, this is basically Superman in a comedy movie. so, so 4.5 out of 10. And I do love the scene when he saves like that factory, and he like uses his ice breath to freeze a lake, and he like drops it over the flaming factory. I thought that was cool. Like, there's moments in this movie. There's this scene I just kind of find funny where he saves a kid, which that was fine. Cause the kid's like in like a field, and he stops like a like a tractor or a combine harvester, and he just like destroys it, which is kind of funny. And he was trying to save the kid, but it's also like, god damn, Superman, you don't have to be a dick and like destroy that guy's harvester. Like, fuck his crops. Like, he like stops and is like, okay, it's just destroyed now. All right. I've always found that funny. But yeah, man, I think this movie isn't the worst thing in the world. It just, compared to the first two, it is definitely a step down, and the music's still really good. The one thing I can always give these movies is that there is a good, like, they get the music cues right. Like, they all, like, when he beats his bad version of himself, and then that Donner music hits. It's not John Williams. I'll say that it's not John Williams. I think it's like somebody else who did the score, but they did a good job at least making it sound like John Williams. Like, the music cues are there. They still nail it. And yeah, I will say Superman 3, like I said, I'll give it a 4.5 out of 10. Every now and then I don't have a problem watching it if I'm watching like a lot of the old Donner movies. So, but anyway, Superman 4, on the other hand, man, that's gonna be wild. Because Superman 4 is so bad. Like, Nuclear Man, who's not a real villain, who the voice was literally just Gene Hackman, dubbed over. Um, the fight is one of the most funniest, so bad fights ever between Superman and Nuclear Man. The choreography, the siege, I mean, the everything about that movie, the idea of Superman just like gonna fly and take all nukes, I'm like, that's not how that works. Yeah, this movie is pretty bad. Superman 4, like, you can't actually defend it. Like, don't do it, the people! That line always kills me when he says that in that movie. But anyway, tomorrow we're gonna be talking about Smile 2. Finally, I've been wanting to watch it. It took forever to finally go on the seas. So I plan on watching it tomorrow, and giving my thoughts on it. I hope I like it, because I thought the first one was alright. I didn't necessarily think it needed a sequel, but who knows, maybe it delivers. So I've heard mostly positive things about it, so I mean, when it comes to horror, I'm pretty lenient. If you can just kind of deliver on the story and some cool creepiness, then I'm pretty much sold. So we'll see. Anyway, let's get into Superman 3. So we meet Russ Gorman. He's at the bank. He gets denied. Um, he steals from his boss, but there's a scene where Superman saves a guy from drowning in his car. There's like a bunch of hijinks start happening in the opening, which it was funny, but you can kind of tell where this movie's gonna be going. That scene pretty much sets the tone for what we're gonna get for the rest of the movie. And so Ross Webster realizes that Gus is embezzling money, and Webster decides to blackmail him into helping them. And this is where Clark and Jimmy Olsen go to Clark's high school. And on the way there, Superman stops a chemical plant from going unstable, saves a couple people, then flies because the firefighters run out of water, so he flies to a lake, freezes it with his ice breath, and I'm not gonna lie, this scene was fun. I always love when Superman saves people. It's a nice little, just seeing Superman do his thing. Granted, it is kind of it's kind of back to Superman not throwing a punch again, which, as bad as the fight is in Superman 4, at least we do see him do something, because I am in the camp. I do want to see you have a character with all these powers. I do want to see him do something at some point. But, so this is where he goes to the high school dance after saving the chemical plant. And this is where we meet Lana. And we meet her son, Ricky. And throughout, like, the couple days there, he starts kind of getting back with Lana. And I'm assuming, like, there's a guy who you see throughout the film. He's, like, this blonde dude. I'm assuming he's, like, her ex-boyfriend who's, like, jealous when Clark gets around. There's a scene in the end. He tries to, like, attack Clark, and Clark fucks with him, and he gets, like, thrown. And he falls onto, like a cart where they give food, and then he goes into an elevator. So that's all that character's there for, just to look like a bumbling fool. I would have written his character out. There was no need for him in the movie. You just needed that dick in the movie. So Superman saves Ricky while he and Lana are out hanging on the field in the crops while he's on a picnic. Saves Ricky, and then so Webster wants Gus to create, this is one of the dumbest plans, get a weather satellite to create a storm to destroy coffee crops. I'm not kidding you. This is the plot. The villain's plan. This is like as bad as Lex's plan in Superman 1. I love that movie, but goddamn, that plan was bad. And because he wants to be able to conquer the market. So Superman neutralizes the Vulcan storm. And then he wants Gus to make kryptonite because he needs something. because he wants basically realized Superman's a threat. And this is where we get corrupted Superman, because he gives him the kryptonite, which corrupts him, and he kind of does vandalism. He blows out the Olympic flame. He straightens the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He just does a little couple dick moves while Gus builds a supercomputer. So he wants to own the oil tankers too. It's so bad. Ross's plan is so convoluted. It is. Like it's like I don't know if they couldn't. You could tell they probably couldn't get Gene Hackman to come back. Maybe could be a case where he was doing another movie at the time, because this came out in 1983, and maybe that's why, like, because Ross Webster is clearly Lex Luthor. It's the same kind of plan. Granted, like, the wreckage they went to Krypton anyway. Why not just make that supercomputer Brainiac? You could have easily it's right there. Brainiac basically is a supercomputer, essentially. Man, it was right fucking there, and it's like they didn't want to pull the trigger. It was like, I don't know if they just didn't know the name Brainiac at the time, and they were just like, just make a generic supercomputer, and that's it. And that's probably what it was. They were like, we don't know. They didn't know the name Brainiac. This was 1983, so they were probably on cocaine when they were making this movie, whoever wrote the plot. And we're like, you know what? We don't know the name Brainiac, so we're just going to make it a supercomputer. Because, my God, in this movie, the supercomputer is generic supercomputer. And there's a scene where Superman's, like, at the bar. This is going to be I think this is going to probably... I was going to make it the thumbnail, but... Where he's, like, at a bar and he's just pouring whiskey, which is a fun little gif. I'm not going to lie. And, like, the stuff with corrupted Superman, and it splits into regular Clark Kent. And this is where the two fight. And this is probably my favorite sequence in the movie, where he faces himself. And it's also a good metaphor when you face your demons kind of thing, too. And they really did a good job with this, because they made you believe, oh, corrupted Superman has him, and then he breaks out of the oil. They're in, like, in a junkyard, and this is where, like, in the compactor part where everything's getting destroyed. Clark breaks out, and Clark beats corrupted Superman and becomes Superman, and he, rips the ass out, rips his shirt, and you get the ass. That scene, and, like, the music hits. Even as a kid, I've always loved that part. Like, even though I didn't necessarily love this movie, even this bad movie, that part is actually really good. That's why maybe instead of 4.5, I might push it up to a 5 just because of that scene. That scene really does hit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, when he beats him, that corrupted version of himself is like beating your own demons, and then he rips off the shirt, you get the S, that, John Williams music hits. I'm just gonna call it John Williams music hits, and then he, flies. You see him repairs the damage from the oil spill, and then he confronts Webster. It's perfect. Like, it's like he's back to his normal self. I love that whole sequence. So that saves this movie a little bit. I just, if the movie explored that part a little bit more, like, throughout that whole movie, that would have, like, maybe there is something he gets, like, demons and all that, but, they weren't thinking about that probably. But the fact they were able to get this scene, at least, even though in this kind of movie, they were at least able to get this scene out. He finds, Webster's location, and that's when they fire the missiles at him with the supercomputer, which I'll admit, this part was kind of fun. Even the scene where he's on the computer and it looks like they're playing a video game. I thought that part was kind of cool. And the computer becomes self-aware. This is when he gets in, like the part where like Superman, because they see Superman, and they think it's gonna be like the corrupted, and it's like, no, that guy's gone. I love when like Superman really emphasized, no, that guy's not here. I really love that. Like, and you gotta give it to Christopher Reeve. I should have mentioned this a bit earlier. Like, he played, in a way, three different versions of himself. Clark Kent, obviously just Superman, and then this corrupted Superman. Even though it wasn't that long, it was kind of probably like, maybe like, if you all together, maybe 15-minute sequence, push 20 pushing. It wasn't that long, really. But the fact he was able to play like three different versions of himself, you gotta give it to Christopher Reeve. Like, so as bad as this movie is on like a technical aspect, he really did a good job playing three different versions, and it's wild that he's able to do that. So at least there's at least some good that comes out of this. So in that sense, that's what makes this better. Because Superman 4, there just isn't like, there's really nothing there. The amount of just reuse shots too in that. Anyway, I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, Superman 3, like, as bad as it is, the fact that you do get him playing three different versions of himself is pretty wild. But you gotta give it its a little, its flowers, at least there, and like the music score. I think the score is pretty good still. Even in Superman 4, that's like the one aspect I can kind of give all the all the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. The score was always good, even though it was like the next two films, it wasn't necessarily John Williams, but you could tell they try to mimic it, and for the most part, I think they did a good job of it. At most, you still hear that like that's the John Williams sound. So. Anyway, so this is where the cyborg attacks Webster, and it attacks, it takes over Vera, who's Webster's sister. Sorry, I didn't really get too into the characters, because they don't matter. Lorelei, easily, you could swap her out and just be Miss Tessmacher. It's kind of the same character. That's why I mean, if you, like, kind of read, I wonder if this has been done. If someone is like edited it where, because Vera gets taken over by the computer and like becomes like takes over, it's like kind of machine, looks human. You kind of re-edit it and make it look like Brainiac, make it green, kind of give it a little bit of a purplish to hue, and that could easily be Brainiac. And then Superman escapes with the Beltric acid, which is actually what is able to destroy the computer. Computer tries to take over Superman, but the heat's able to destroy the supercomputer, and it causes the computer's destroyed. Superman saves Gus, and I love the little dap they give to each other. Like they have respect for each other. Because Gus isn't necessarily a bad guy. He's just blackmailed. He's embezzling money, which that's bad, but it wasn't like when things started going really bad, and when there's a scene I kind of skipped over where they do have a thing on one of the defenses from the computers. They use kryptonite, and it has like a kryptonite defense, and it's taking down Superman. But then it goes too far, and it gets to a point where even Webster's like, okay, I'm gonna try to stop it. Even like Vera's like, I can't stop it, and then Gus manages to saves Superman. Like, he uses an axe and destroys the beam. So, like, he saves him. So, and then you get the funny scene with Superman's carrying him flying into West Virginia. I thought that part was pretty funny. And he basically he visits Lana, and she takes a job in Metropolis, but let's be real, it's never explored again, because she doesn't come back in the next movie. Because there's like another, like, not love interest, there's a girl who's into Clark, but and she's like the daughter of like the person who takes over the Daily Planet. But you almost could easily rewrite and just have that be Lana again, but I don't know. I don't know if Annette O'Toole just didn't come back and or she saw the plot and it's like, I ain't coming back to this shit. Which I don't blame her. But you know, you have a nice ending where they're back in Metropolis for a second. I do like that. Like, I do like the little sequence of back in Metropolis. We get to see, Lois one more time, and Superman fixes the Tower of Pisa, and we get the iconic fly into space shot. So, and the cute. I'm not gonna lie. After the movie ended, I listened to the score in the end. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I do with these movies. I do love the score. So, Superman 3, it's not great. It has its problems. It's way too slapsticky, especially at times. And there are times it just kind of turns into a Richard Pryor movie. But it's not the worst thing in the world, and it's definitely better than Superman 4, and it's way better than Returns. I'll watch this over Returns, like, with the quickness. If I had to pick, I would pick this one. Because, like I said, that scene where he fights the corrupted version of himself and beats him is really awesome. And then that moment where he becomes Superman again, and then that music cue, it's perfect. So, like I said, there's some good stuff here. The scene where he saves a chemical plant, there's some good moments in this movie. Even the opening scene where he saves a person out of the car, even though it's pretty quick, but it was like, all right, you get to see Superman pretty quick. And I love when he gave the kid the one picture with him, with him on it. It's like, that's Superman right there. And I actually dug the suit. I actually thought the way that the movie was shot made the suit look, it almost like the suit popped more in this one in a weird way. I don't know if the cameras were a bit better because it was 1983, so a little bit of a time jump. But like I said, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I was gonna give it a 4.5, but if I'm not gonna lie, that junkyard scene definitely brings it up. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I don't love that the villain was stupid. His whole plan was for fucking stupid. You could clearly tell in I wonder if the original draft it was supposed to be Lex Luthor, but they couldn't get Gene Hackman to come back. Maybe he was scheduling conflicts. Because that's what it sounded like, because he came back in the fourth one. So it's not like, I don't know if it was a money. Maybe it was a money thing, but I don't know if it was that, because I feel like he came back in the fourth one. Somebody tells me it was more of he just probably doing something else at the time and just could not do both. So, and they just rewrote him as Ross Webster. And like I said, the whole supercomputer aspect, you could easily just rework it to be Brainiac. But anyway, 5 out of 10. It's not the worst thing in the world. Would I recommend watching it? You could skip it. I'm not like you need to watch it. It's definitely one of those, if you want to watch it just to be like, I want to watch all the not Donner, but all the like Christopher Reeve Superman movies, then yeah, I would say watch it, but you don't have to watch it. You can almost, like, in your mind, if you wanted the Christopher Reeve Superman movies just to be the two Donner ones, or the Donner cut, but like just the main two Christopher Reeve, the first two, it's understandable, but this isn't the worst thing in the world. So 5 out of 10. 4 on the other hand, that's bad. That Nuclear Man, the whole scene where he gets Superman, he scratches Superman's just sick for some reason, makes no sense to me. Even as a kid, I'm like, why is he sick all of a sudden? It was just like, oh, we needed to have a way to get him not be Superman for a bit. And then that third act fight is so bad. Even before they get to the moon, when Nuclear Man, because he wants the woman, and he's like, give me the woman. Give it up. You'll never find her. The way Christopher Reeve delivers lines in this one, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty funny. It's not bad per se, but it's pretty funny and memeable. Don't do it. The people. That always killed me. Always killed me as a line. But, and then there's a scene where he rebuilds the fucking Great Wall of China, telepathically. What the fuck did that happen? That's not Superman power. It was just so random. All these movies just give him random powers that he just never had. But anyway, and then yeah, they bring back Gene Hackman. And I think I'm going to say it, of the 4 films, or the 3, because he wasn't the third one. I'm going to be honest, the fourth one in a fucked up way is probably his best one, because he wasn't as much of a bumbling idiot. And I thought he had much more really good scenes with Clark. I actually think the scene where before he faces Nuclear Man, I love the back and forth between him and Christopher Reeve. So I think there is some good stuff, just some, but I've always felt and he wasn't as bumbling in Superman 4 compared to There's some moments in there still, but obviously there's the moment he gets caught and he gets taken back to prison. He's bald again. You obviously have those moments, but that moment before he faces nuclear, I do love. Yeah, everything else. Yeah, but especially that fight on the moon. The moment where he takes the girl up into space, nuclear man. She should have fucking exploded, but somehow she doesn't die. But okay, it's wild to me. But anyway, I'll be talking about that. I'll try to review that on Friday next week. But so I know I'm going to be doing that on Friday. So I got like the video for Monday and definitely next Friday. I just got to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of the week. But other than that, guys, tomorrow we'll be talking about Smile 2. I hope it's decent. I still don't really think it needs a sequel. I feel like this is, because it was a one-off. I always feel like it's better off as a one-off idea, It didn't really need a follow-up, but we'll see. Who knows? It could be really fucking good, and I could be wrong. So, anyways, I'll be talking about that tomorrow, and we're going to be roasting Ridley Scott on Monday. And I'm actually kind of all between both of those. I kind of cannot wait to roast Ridley Scott, because kind of needs it. So, anyways, guys, I'll call it there. Talk to y'all later. Other than that, guys, talk to y'all later. Subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. We just released our recording we did earlier this week, so that's up now, and we should be doing stuff hopefully throughout the week. One of our co-hosts just got ill. Got the flu a little bit. So hopefully he'll get better. But we'll see how long. We'll keep y'all posted. Follow us on our Discord. It's gonna be hard to do our Discord, but our Discord, because Discord is retarded, where we can't just the link changes every time. So I would love to just put that in there, but it's gonna change every week. For some reason they said it like that, where your links expire after 7 days. So, but other than that, guys, I'll talk to y'all later.